So in this session, let's talk about some Linux commands which are useful for a DevOps engineer in day-to-day activities. Generally, we know DevOps is like tools, right? But before touching the tools like Docker, Kubernetes, Jenkins, or whatever, Linux is the foundation. Almost every DevOps tool runs on Linux, and majority of the production servers are also running on the Linux. I'm not saying every production server, but majority. If you don't understand the Linux, definitely you will struggle when you are deploying. Being an AWS admin or AWS architect, Linux is not that much mandatory, but for being a DevOps engineer, Linux is a mandatory. There is no doubt in that. Okay. And the most important thing to learn the commands are, let us say some applications are running in the Linux, okay, and I mean, some issue is getting generated, and you have to understand or you need to troubleshoot. What is the first thing? You need to check the logs. You need to check the logs. And whenever you are using a Windows machine, let me share my screen so I can give you some example. Okay, right. Let us say if you are using a Windows machine, then what you do, if someone asks you to check some what we call the log files, you will navigate like this, C drive, or wherever that particular logs are located, right? So you will go over there like this, and just you can go there and just you can right click, you can open it and you can view the log files, right? But in the Linux, you don't get this graphical user interface. Everything should be using the commands. For that reason, you must learn the commands, how to open a file, first of all, how to log into the Linux machine and all. Okay, right. As a DevOps, and the most important thing you must remember is, as a DevOps engineer, you don't use GUI, graphical user interface. And always you access the servers remotely. Always you access the servers remotely. And you work majority of the time on cloud instances or VMs. Zero, less than 1% of physical machines might be for testing or some kind of thing. Remaining 99.99% of the time, all the servers on which you are working are either a cloud server or a virtual machine. So there is no other way that you have to log in remotely. So first of all, what is this remote login? Because the remote login is not only for Linux machines, that remote login is also applicable for Windows machines. What is this remote login? Any idea? Any idea what is this remote login? Any guess? Okay. Let us say you have some machine. Okay, let us say you are having some machine, right? A second, let me keep all the things aside. Okay, so this is your computer. So let us say this is going to be your Linux machine. Sorry, right? And you are somewhere, you are located somewhere. You are located somewhere because if you are in front of your computer, what you will do, just you will go to that particular machine. You will use the keyboard to enter the username and a password, right? Just simply you can enter the username and password in front of the computer. But you are located somewhere. You are located somewhere, and here this is your a laptop. This is your laptop or a desktop. Now you want to access, you want to log in from here over there. You want to log in from laptop to the Linux machine. This is called as a remote log. You are logging into the machine or any computer from a remote location instead of going to that particular Linux computer and sitting in front of the computer. You are trying to log in from a remote location. So here, this is a Linux machine, right? So for the remote login purpose, use a protocol called SSH. Stands for Secure a Shell. Stands for Secure a Shell. So here we are using a SSH protocol for the Linux machines. So that here you must need a tool. Let us say if you want to access a website, right? What protocols we use? HTTP or HTTPS protocol. To access the website using such protocols, we use HTTPS client, which is nothing but a browser. Browser is HTTP or HTTPS client. The same way, to log into any Linux computer using SSH protocol, we need an SSH client. We need an SSH client. Do you know any SSH clients? Do you know any SSH clients? One is Putty tool, Mobaxter. These all are the examples for SSH client. In the real time, both are popular tools. There are n number of tools available. There are n number of tools available. Out of those, these two are popular and most commonly used SSH clients. So what happens here? This user will install one of these two SSH clients in his machine, right? Then he will he will log into the Linux computer. So across the globe, there are like billions of computers are available, right? But how this SSH client identifies to which Linux computer the user is trying to log in? They need some sort of address, right? They need some sort of address. So here, the machines in the network can be reached using a address called IP address. Using an address called IP address. Here, there are two things available. One is public IP, and the second one is a private IP. So, any guess what might be the public IP and what might be the private IP? Any wild guess? Okay, so the public IPs can be accessible from anywhere across the globe, whereas the private IPs can be accessible within the same network. Let me give you a simple example so that you can understand this IP address concept better. So I think a mobile number, right? Mobile number is also a kind of an address. Mobile number is like a public IP address. Mobile number can be reachable from anywhere across the globe. If you gave me your mobile number, I can call you from anywhere across the globe. And the example for the private IP is if you go for some kind of communities, right? The residential communities, they do use some kind of intercoms, right? Which only works within that building. They can reach any in a number within that particular building. That number cannot be reached from outside, and that number cannot communicate with anybody who is outside of that particular community premises. So here, the public IP, if you assign a public IP address to any computer, that computer can be accessible from, or that computer is reachable from anywhere across the globe. If you assign, or if that machine is having a private IP address, then that machine can be accessible within the same network that cannot be accessible from outside. Just example, where whatever the websites we are accessing, right? The machines on which the websites are hosted are publicly reachable. That's why we are able to access the websites from anywhere across the globe. If those machines doesn't have a public IP, we have to travel to their office in which the website is running, and then we can access the website. But that's not the ideal case, right? The websites must be accessible from anywhere across the globe. That's why the websites are publicly reachable with the help of public IP address. With the help of public IP address. Okay, now how we can access using a protocol called SSH protocol with the help of an SSH client and with the help of a public IP. So technically speaking, public IP or a public DNS name. If that is in the same network, you can use a private IP or a private DNS. What is DNS? Domain naming system, like equivalent a name of the IP address, which we can discuss in detail in the concept of Route 53. Have AWS concept called Route 53. In that particular concept, we can discuss about DNS and everything in detail with hands-on exercises. Right. So now, whenever this user is trying to log into this Linux machine, let us say the IP address is, do you know how an IP address looks like? Again, the IP address, we have two versions available. One is IP version 4 and the second one is IP version 6. And IP version 4 looks like in this format. One dot, there should be a dot like this. 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4. This is how a Linux, IP address looks like, especially the version 4. Okay. So now this user entered all the required things to log into the Linux machine. A request will be sent, like I would like to log in. Then this machine will send a response. What kind of response? Authenticate yourself. Authenticate yourself, like prove that you are a valid user or authenticated user. Then this user has to prove his identity. In the Linux, there are two different authentication mechanisms. Like in the Linux operating system supports two different authentication mechanisms. In generally, we know whenever we talk about authentication, we know the combination of username and a password combination, right? This is the authentication mechanism. You need to enter the username and password. There is another authentication mechanism, which is username plus private key combination. Instead of entering the username, we need to provide a key so that the server validates whether the user is a valid user or not. So what is the private key? Private key is a small part of a key pair. So we have a concept called key pair. We have a concept called key pair, which is the combination of public key and a private key. Okay. So this public key, so here the Linux server, right? This public key will be placed here. The public key will be placed in the Linux machine for the user. Then the user, whenever the user is trying to log in, he will enter username plus a private key. so that it will validate again as the public key. If the combination is correct, the user will be logged in. And in the production environments, majority of the time, this will be disabled for security reasons because password can be easily guessable, whereas the private key nobody can guess or nobody can generate. Out of these two authentication mechanisms, sorry, the username plus password combination is disabled. And if you observe AWS, right? If you create a Linux EC2 instance in the AWS, by default, you can't log in using username and password. You can only log in with username plus private key combination. So here, let me show you desktop key pair. Okay, these are the private keys. These are the private keys. I have a lot of private keys. Let me open one private key to just show you how it looks like. This is how the private key looks like. No, even a single character change, it doesn't work. Okay, right. So now, close this. Yeah. So now already I have one Linux machine already created because we haven't started AWS and all yet. So already I have prepared the AWS Linux instance in advance, and we are going to use that machine. And how to create and all, just we will learn in the next coming sessions, the moment once we start AWS also. Okay. So already I have noted down the details. Already I have noted down the details here. This is the public IP of the EC2 instance. This is the private IP, but no use of private IP. You can't. So username is the EC2-user. Now the question, how to log in? How to log in? There is no what we call that. Uh, there is no graphical user interface where you can open a tool and all. Just you have to log in with the help of commands. SSH hyphen I, then okay, let me username at the rate of IP address or whatever. But here, the moment once you enter like this, I said username is EC2-user, IP address, this is the IP address, right? But the problem is the moment once you enter this, it will ask you to enter the username and a password. Unfortunately, by default, on any on any AWS Linux machines, username and password doesn't work. What we have to do, we need to attach the key, the private key. How to attach private key dot PEM. So this is the key pair. So in our case, what is the key pair name? Mumbai.pem. So I have used this one, Mumbai.pem. So I need to enter. So what happens? It will try to establish a secure shell connection with this particular Linux server with the username and the private key so that it will be validated. So let us try to understand. What is the SSH here? Secure connection, which will establish a secure connection using secure shell protocol. Secure shell protocol. And then what is a hyphen I? It is identity file, which is a key in our case. Hyphen I stands for identity file. Then EC2-user. Just I'm trying to explain the command. I'm trying to explain this command, syntax or command, whatever you call it. EC2 user, EC2-user is the Linux user with which we are trying to log in. Then 13.233.39.205, which is server public address. This one. Server's public address. Just important point. Password login is disabled in all production servers. Just a simple note point. Password logins is disabled on production servers, and you must use the private key for authentication. For now, just I provided the private key, but later we will see how to generate the key pairs, how to generate our own combination of public and private key and everything. Okay, right. So now let us try to log in. So for login purpose, we have to open the Mobaxter. I will use a Mobaxter. You can use Putty also. No issues. It's already installed. From where you can install, it's an open source or a free tool. New session and click on SSH. Remote host. So, but what I said, have to use this command, right? We have to use this command. Yes, you can use that command, or in the Mobaxter, they're providing some graphical user interface options, right? If you don't see this, then you have to type the command. Remote host. Remote host is nothing but the IP address. What is the IP address? This is the IP address. Username is EC2-user. If I click on OK, SSH connection will be established with this Linux computer using this username. And immediately it will ask you to enter the password and you will get an error. So what you have to do, you need to attach the private key. How to? Here you can see advanced SSH settings. Select that. Here there is an option called use a private key. Click, select, OK. So for the first time, you need to accept. Okay, let me increase the font. Okay. So you can see successfully logged in, and you can see something called Amazon Linux 2023, which is the operating system in the Linux computer. To which computer we logged in? That machine is having Amazon Linux 2023, which is also a Debian operating system, Linux operating system. Okay, so the moment once you logged in, what we observe, this is what we can see. Let us try to decode it, what exactly this is, right? Let me, so here I can say, understanding the Linux terminal prompt. This is what we have seen, right? What is this? Can you guess what is this EC2-user? That is the user with which we logged in. At the rate is just a separator, and this is host name. This is host name. What is the host name? Host name is nothing but the computer name. The host name is nothing but the name of the computer. I will show you. This is the terminal prompt, which it should looks like, right? So here, let me separate the modules so for better understanding. So here, EC2-user is the user with which we logged in. At the rate is just a separator. There is no special significance to that. Then IP-172-31-8-246. What is this? It is the host name of the computer. What is a host name? Let me show you. If I open File Explorer, this PC, and if I go to properties of my computer, so somewhere you can see the device name. That is what the host name, name of the computer. This is what the host name of the computer. Okay, then you can see something called a symbol, tilt symbol, right? What is that? That is the home directory. What is a home directory? In the Windows machine, for every user, there is a home directory where if I go to users, see, home directory, what it contains? All my user content like desktop, documents, and all. In the same way, in the Linux also, for every user, there is a home directory. This is the home directory. And if you see dollar symbol, right? If you see a dollar symbol here, which indicates a normal user. Instead, if you see this symbol instead of a dollar, that is a root user. Now, the question, what is the root user? Root user is the default default administrator user of the Linux operating system. What is a normal user? Normal user can be an admin user or a normal non-admin user. That doesn't matter. Normal user is the user who is other than the root user. So now you might get a question like, we logged in with a user called EC2-user. Is he a root user? No. Is he a administrator? Yes. Let me explain that. EC2-user is a normal user created at the time of OS installation, and EC2-user will get administrator permissions. Just user will get administrator permission even though it is not a root user. Because I said root user is the default administrator account, but you can add more administrator users that we can see in the users group and permissions concept of Linux. How EC2-user, okay, let us say if you want to provide admin permissions to any normal user, we will add the user into sudoers group. So they will get administrator access to the Linux machine. Just remember, EC2-user is not a root user, but he got administrator permissions. Means he can do anything. He can install, he can uninstall, he can create, he can delete. How? There is a concept called sudoers. The user will be added to that group, like in Windows machine. Let me compare this with the Windows. Well, let us say I want to allow you to access my machine. So what I do, I will create a username, a account for you in my machine. So he will be a normal user. You can't install any software, you can't uninstall anything. But if you need the administrator permission, what I do, I will add you to this administrators group. Right now, I am the only one. Administrator is the default user, and I created one account for myself. and I will click add, and I will add your name to this particular group, and you will become the administrator. But that doesn't mean you are the default administrator. You are a normal user with administrator permissions. You are a normal user with the administrator permissions. The same way this EC2-user is. Okay, now if I go to here, right, with which user we logged in? EC2-user. But he is not a root user. He is a normal user, right? Okay, now let us go with some basic identity commands. Let us go with some basic identity commands. If I am going fast, just let me know so that I will slow down. Okay. Because if you are not responding, I mean, if you are not asking any questions, I think you are able to follow. Whenever you feel I'm going fast, just let me know. I will slow down. Okay. Let us start with some basic commands, which are going to be identity commands. So the first command is who. Okay. What I do is, yeah, who am I? This is the first command. What this who am I, which indicates who am I? Who am I? Just we are asking, who am I? Let me execute this command. Let me execute this command and let us see what we get. Just like cleared the screen, we can use Control L, combination of Control button and L button, so that screen will be cleared. Okay, who am I? Let me press enter. EC2-user. Now, host name. Host name is nothing but, already I said, right? Server name. So this command will display the name of the computer. Host name. What happened? Yeah, here it is. This is the host name of the computer. Server name of the machine. Server name. Okay. Right. There is another one. Uname hyphen A. So what this will give you is, it will give you the details about the Linux kernel and operating system details. Because whenever being a DevOps engineer, whenever you want to or you are trying to install some packages, some softwares, there are some prerequisites that the kernel must be 1.6 or greater than 1.6. Then how can you verify the kernel of the machine on which you would like to install the software? This is the command. Whenever you type the uname space hyphen a, which will give you the details about the kernel and operating system. Operating systems has kernel, whether it's the Linux or a Windows, that doesn't matter. Let me type the uname hyphen a, name space hyphen a. Let me increase the font. Okay. See what we are getting. The kernel is where it is. It is the kernel, right? And which is 64-bit x86 64. This is how you will get the kernel details and architecture, whether it's a 32-bit or 64. Okay. The next command, yeah, cat. Generally, the command cat is used to view a file. So here also we have to use that. Which file? etc/os-release. Based on this, can you guess what might be this command? Okay, so this file might contain the information about your operating system, and this will display here the information about the Linux operating system, right? Yeah, exactly. That's correct. But in a different word, Linux distribution information will be visible. Linux distribution information. Okay. Cat, etc, OS. See here, the advantage is, so I type this and just I'm pressing tab. The command will be auto-filled. Press enter. See, the operating system details, Linux distribution, Amazon Linux. Version is 2023. ID is like a Fedora, and the name is this, and all the information you can see here. And the support will be ended for this operating system on 30th June 2029. I mean, by that time it will be obsolete. Okay. Now, let me switch to the Windows machine. So here is my Windows machine, right? And if I go here, okay, okay. Now, in which directory I am in which directory I am in which folder I am in, you must answer, because then only you can understand the Linux. Just a wild guess, in which directory I am in. What is the address of my location in this computer? In which directory I am in? See here. So I don't say like on C drive. That's not the actual thing. See here, you can see C colon slash users slash PONNA. This is the current directory in which I am in, right? Or if I go in a different way, and now C new folder, right? C new folder. We have a different things, right? There's a directory in which we are in. Let us say if I ask you to install, if I ask you to create a file in the C test, directory test, means first you have to navigate to that particular directory, C test, then you can create or you can do whatever you want. If you do on the desktop, that doesn't mean you are following the requirements, right? Yes. So the same way here, the Linux also, we must know in which directory we are in. Just there is a command called pwd. It will give you where am I. See, pwd. Right now, I am in this directory. In the Linux, it's not a kind of a C drive, D drive, E drive. We will see the Linux file system also just in the next 1 or 2 minutes. So here, the present working directory, in which directory right now I am in is, this is the directory slash home slash ec2 dash user. There is another command called id, which is not that much useful. So like with which user I logged in, ec2 dash user is the user, in which group he is a part, all the things you can see. Okay, right. Now, the most important thing is Linux file system structure. You must understand that. No need to remember, but you must understand, because the Linux, the file system structure is starts with a C directory, right? C, then it has a multiple folders, files, and everything. The same way in the Linux, we do have a separate a file system structure. Linux file system structure. Before getting into this Linux file system structure, are you guys clear up to the basic identity commands, like what is who am I, host name, uname space hyphen a, and all, or any questions?
It's clear.
Okay. So coming to the file system structure, the first important thing is a slash. The first thing is a slash. Slash is a root of everything. Root of everything. It is a top level directory. Like in the Windows, how the top level starts at C directory. In Linux, it starts at a slash. Or I can say a root of everything. Anything is available under slash. If you see in my laptop, everything is available in the C directory, C drive, right? C directory. Directory drive is a C, but we labeled it as a C, right? So in the Linux, it is a slash. Then we have slash home. This is also a directory, and this is a normal user's home directory. Slash home. Okay, let me show you that. So generally, how to go to that particular, okay. So if I want to navigate or if I want to go to C drive and test directory in my computer, how I should do? So double click to open, then double click the test directory, right? The same way in the Linux, we have a command called cd, cd, change directory, cd. Okay, first let me show you pwd. Right now, I am in this particular directory. Now cd space a slash means I went to the root level. Like I navigated to the C directory. Let me say pwd. See? So here you can see some home directory. I will explain all the navigational commands, cd, ll, ls, right? We will see that also. See, there is a directory for ec2-user under home. Okay, right. So the slash home is the normal user's home, means that particular user's default data is located in this particular directory. Why I should mention normal users? Because for the root user, that is going to be slash root. For the root user, the home directory is not a slash home slash root. Let's say this is user slash etc. So can you guess what this etc contains? etc contains configuration files. All the configuration files of your application, everything will be placed in the slash etc directory. I mean, we don't place them manually. Automatically, at the time of installing the packages, those configuration files will be stored in this directory. Okay. Then slash var folder contains, it contains what we call that, logs, contains logs in the sense log files, and any runtime data. While the application is running, it will have some runtime data which is available only during the running phase, right? That data is available in the var folder. Var logs slash var slash logs, httpd.log, or or something dot log, access dot log, and all the files. Log files will be available in the slash of var. Then slash opt. It contains third-party apps. Contains third-party apps like a Jenkins. If you install such tools, those tools are installed in the slash opt. Or I can say third party or third party software will be available in this particular directory. Let us say in the Windows, if you install any software, like if you download some software from the internet and if you install, they will be installed in the C program files, C Notepad++, SQL Yoga, Putty, right? This Node.js and like this. The same way, whenever you install a third-party software or any optional software in the Linux machine, they will be placed in this particular folder. Okay, right. Then /tmp, obviously it contains a temporary files. Like in the Windows, we have a temp files, right? The same way, Linux /tmp. Then /usr. What is this user USR? The user commands and binaries. I can say programs, user binaries, commands, or some programs. Like if you design something to be executed automatically, some scripts, bash scripts, shell scripts, or whatever will be placed in the /usr, basic user commands and binaries. Okay. Then after /usr, what else we have? Yeah, /lib is there. Libraries. All the libraries will be placed in that lib. We don't use that much. Okay, the most important one, /bin. Bin stands for some kind of a binary kind of a thing, right? Which contains all the basic Linux commands. If you execute the basic Linux command, that will be executed from this particular location. Or instead of basic Linux command, I can say user commands. Whatever the user executed, those commands will be executed from the /bin. There is another one called /sbin, which is system commands. It contains the system commands or administrator level commands. Those will be executed from /sbin. Okay, I mean, if I execute who am I, right? That will be that who am I command will be executed from /bin directory. These are the important directories. These are the important directories. Now, let us see, let us see some navigational commands. Just we will see the navigational commands so that we can do some kind of observation for these Linux file system structure also. Okay. So here I will do some kind of, I will write down some navigational commands. What might be the navigational commands? The commands which can be used to navigate from one location or one directory to another directory in the computer, right? So navigational commands are used to navigate from one directory to another, right? So if you see a few navigational commands, already covered the PWD, right? Okay. So the on LS. LS is one command, which is like kind of listing the files. LF-L, LS-L, detailed view, and LS-A, including hidden files. Including hidden files. Okay, let us see. So let us go to our mobile system, I mean the Linux machine. First, PWD, in which location I am in, /home/EC2. But before that, the first important thing we must know is a CD. We must know is a CD. CD stands for change directory. CD used to change the directory. cd command is to change the directory, navigation. Like if you want to navigate to a specific directory, you can use this one. Cd is used to change the directory. And if you ask me an example, cd space a slash, cd space a slash. What does that mean? Which will, or I can say, it will takes you to the root directory. Root directory in the sense slash. Change the directory to slash. That is the meaning. Let us see. cd space a slash and press enter. Now let me do pwd. See, what is the current directory? Slash. Now the ls. ls is used to list the files, listing all the files. So let us see. ls stands for list. So I can say list, or I can say use it to display all the files and directories inside a directory. So by default, if you type just ls, if you type just ls, by default, it shows the content of the current working directory. Okay, let me show you. So here, if I do ls, see, all the files and folders are visible from the current working directory. What is the current working directory? Slash. If you want to see something like from slash opt, see, list the content from this particular directory. It depends on your use case. But ls is used to display the files and directories inside a directory. By default, by default, it will display all the contents from the current directory. And then ls-l, it is long list of format. Long list format. What it does, it will display the detailed information. So I can say this command displays detailed information about the files and directories, which includes file permissions, like each file is having what kind of permissions, and who is the owner of the file, and which group has permissions on this particular file, file size, what is the size of the file, last modified date, file or directory name is obviously we know, right? Okay, let me execute that command to observe what exactly this detailed information means. ls-l, see. But earlier, just if I type ls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10, 20, 20 details are available. Not the complete detail, just it is showing the name of the content. Now, if I do ls-l, see the same 20, but the permissions, what permissions are available, who is the owner, what is the group, and size, last modified time, last modified time. This is how the detailed information is. And we have something else called ls-a, which will list all the files, including hidden ones. including hidden ones. Even in your Windows machine, hidden files are not visible by default, right? Then what we do, we go to like this, we will enable this one so that all the hidden files are visible, right? Like this one, this is the hidden folder, this is the hidden folder. The same way in the Linux also, we do have some hidden files. To view the hidden files, we use this one list all files and directories. Generally, directories are not hidden. List all files, including hidden ones. Generally, hidden files are started with the name starting with dot. Always the hidden file's name starts with dot. If you do dot to any file name, that is a hidden file. Okay. Right. So now let us see ls hyphen a. Okay. What I do is I will create a file dot file1 dot txt. Just wait. Just I'm trying to explain you that hyphen a thing. So now ls hyphen l. There is no dot. I created two files. One is a file1.txt and the second one is a file2.txt. But what I did, file2 is a hidden file. File2 is a hidden file. See here, you can see file1.txt. Even if I do ls-l, file1.txt is there, but there is no file2.txt. Why? Because it is a hidden file. To view that, what you have to do, ls-a, see, file2.txt is visible and it is having a dot in front of the name, which is hidden file. This is how this is how we can view the hidden files also. Not only that, you can do something like ls hyphen la hidden files with detailed information. So we have ls hyphen l long list format, right, with the detailed information. If I add a after l, that becomes visible hidden files along with a detailed information. There is something called ll also. You know ls, right? Ll also is there. Okay. There is something called ls hyphen h. I mean like lh. Let me show you. Can you guess what it is? This is ls hyphen l is a long list, detailed information. We know that. What is the h? H is a human readable format, human readable sizes. Human readable sizes. Let me show you. So what size it is? I don't know. I need to calculate ones, tens, hundreds. Okay, 16,000 bytes of data or whatever, right? If I do ls-lh, see, human readable size 16 KB, 3 KB, 16 KB, 22 bits, 17 bits, 103 bits, 820 bits. Human readable format. Okay, right. So then what else we have? ls we are done. So when we use this ls is to list out all the contents from the directory, we use this ls command. Then we have ll also, ll, right? Generally, ls is more than enough. Ll is an alias in shell config files and all. Let me show you what exactly it is. ls, right? Ll is if whenever you type ll, the backend it will execute ls hyphen l. It's an alias, okay? Because sometimes a few people might type ll, so don't get confused. I will say ll is the alias of alias is like alternate alias of ls hyphen l. Means if you type ll, right, it will execute ls hyphen l. Okay, right. Then just we have seen the basic navigational commands. CD, most important, change directory, right? And then ls, listing the files and the directories. Then we have to go with some creation, file creations and all, right? Before getting into that, I will explain with a one simple example. Not all the things because it's already 8:35. Let us go with like 10 more minutes with a simple command just to show you how you should work as a normal user or a root user. Okay. With which user we logged in? A root user or a normal user. Okay. There is a command. There is a command. What we call that file creation. There is a command called a touch. So I will say file and directory commands. Just I will go with one command. It will take like 5 to 10 minutes of time. Okay. Sorry. So there is a command called a touch. There is a command called a touch, which is used to create empty files. Touch is used to create empty files. What does that mean by creating an empty file? Let me show you. Let me show you in the Windows. So here, right click, new, a file text document, file one, enter. This is what the empty file means. If I open this file, it contains nothing. It contains nothing. Empty file. The same way in the Linux, this touch command is used to create an empty file. Create an empty file. Okay. So here, let me show you did something wrong. Okay. What is the syntax? What is the syntax? Touch space file name. That is the command. Now let us try to create an empty file. Let us say the file name is going to be file 11.txt. Create an empty file, file 11.txt in slash. Okay, means in the root directory. Or let me make it more easy in the root directory slash. This is the root directory, right? Okay. So now if I do touch file 11.txt, does the file creates the root directory? We know this will create the file, but where the file will be created? In the present working directory. So what is the present working directory? PWD means the file will be created. The file will be created at home slash EC2 user. But what is the requirement? The file to be created at root directory. So first, what you have to do is navigate to the root directory like a CD space a slash, then create the empty file using touch command. Okay, right. So how to navigate CD space to which directory you would like to navigate? Slash, right? Enter, right? Enter. Okay, so now pwd. See, I'm in the correct directory. Now I want to create. What is the command to create? Touch file name. Touch file name. Okay, touch touch space. What is the file name I decided? File 11.txt. with which user we logged in? EC2 dash user who is a normal user. He is not a root user. Already I said he is the administrator who has a complete control, complete permissions on the machine. But why we are getting there is an admin, but the machine doesn't know or doesn't aware of that this user has admin permission. Whenever you a voice software,
Is that clear?
Yes, it is audible now.
Okay, let me. Uh, don't know what happened. One second. Yeah. So I think it seems something issue with the headset. Okay, just I switched the mic to the system inbuilt mic. Okay, right. So here, where are we? Yeah, permission denied error. Okay. So here, whenever the user is trying to execute an administrative command, the system doesn't only checks whether he is a root user or not, and then whether the user is having a permission on this directory or not. So here, what we have to do is we have to use a command called sudo. Whenever you are executing a command which can modify the system, you have to use a command called sudo. I will explain what it is. Touch file11.txt. What exactly it does is there is a file called sudoer file. In the Linux, there is a file called sudoer file. This EC2-user is added to the admin group, which means this user is a part of sudoer file. Whoever is a part of sudoer file, they have or they got admin permissions. They can create, they can delete, they can manage the things. With this command, machine directly go to sudoer file and it will check whether this user exists in the sudo file or not. If the user exists in a sudoer file, that means the machine consider this EC2-user is having the permission to execute this command, this in the sense whatever I am highlighting in this particular location, right? Let me see, enter, no error. Let me type ls. See, this is the file which we created, right? Okay. Now, there is one more thing. So with which user we logged in? EC2-user. And EC2-user is the administrator. Now, we can switch we can switch the user to a root user also. Switch the user into root user. For that, the command is going to be sudo is mandatory. Whenever you're executing an administrator or administrative commands, every command requires a sudo. Sudo su. SU stands for switch user. Okay, let me show you. Who am I? EC2-user. If I do sudo space SU, see, with which user I logged in? Root user. Let me type who am I? With which user? Root. Now, we don't need any sudo commands from now onwards because I switch it to the root user. And if you observe, For the normal user, it is a showing dollar symbol. For root user, you are getting hash, pound symbol. Sorry. Okay. Now what I do is, after switching, create another file as a root user, and the file name is going to be file12.txt as root user without using any sudo, because root user doesn't require any sudo commands. He is the default administrator. See, uh, touch file12.txt ls-l. See, even if you observe, file11.txt got created, but we used sudo, right? That's why it is showing the user as a root user. Whenever you type sudo, like running some software installations, run as administrator, right? Even though you are administrator user, but whenever you try to install some softwares in the Windows machine, you will get a prompt like run as administrator, right? Means you have the administrator permissions and you are running that task as administrator. Okay, don't get confused. Just if you are in the real time, we never ever logged in with the root user. We will logged in as a normal user only. But for our normal user, we will get all the required permissions. How to create the normal user, how to assign the permissions, all the things we will see going forward. Still, we have one more day to cover the Linux basic commands, which required for a DevOps, right? 1 or 2 days depends on the topics what we cover, right? What all we done? Yeah. So here, no need of any sudo touch space file12.txt. But whereas here in the first case, it's going to be sudo touch file11.txt. So if you logged in as a non-root user, you must use sudo in front of every command, not only for file creation, software installations and everything. And with the root user, if you how to switch to the root user, sudo space su or sudo space su space hyphen, few people will use it dash, whatever it is, su switch user, right? And here you can see with which user we logged in, a root user. And if I type log out, right, okay, I think only exit. See, I logged out as a root user and now I'm acting as a EC2 dash user. If I type again exit, it's a log out. See, I'm not able to type anything. I just disconnected. That doesn't mean I logged out or I shut down the Linux machine. We will see like how to shut down the Linux computer, how to restart, all the things we will cover, right? So still we have a lot of things to cover in the file and directory commands. We created an empty file, but how can we add some data? How to edit a data? How to copy a file? How to move a file? How to remove a file? And then how to create a directory, right? And how to view the files. Viewing the files is most important because whenever there's a log file, you have to view the content of the log file, right? If I do cat, okay, yeah, okay, go ahead. Just we are going to wrap up, no problem. Just I'm giving some overview. What we call that? Yeah. So there is a command called a tail, which we regularly use in the DevOps to view the log files and all the things. Okay. That part we will cover in the tomorrow session, like files, directories, viewing the files and all the things. If time permits, we will go with like what we call that package installation, search and all the things. Okay. Right. So before closing the session, are you guys clear or any questions? And I will upload this video also. Okay. And I will share the link with you guys. Just you can go through it whenever you have any queries. Okay. And always, like whenever you have any question, just feel free to reach me. I can help you out. If you guys are clear, you guys can leave. If you have a question, just you can wait and you can ask me the questions. Thank you guys. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay then. Let's continue tomorrow. Thank you.